And welcome, everyone, to our Bleacher Report AP Top 25 reaction poll. I'm Andy Katz here in Maui. Just about as we're taping this, going live here about an hour and a half away from tip-off from the first game here at the Maui Invitational between Memphis and, as you see on your screen, number 2 Connecticut. I am sporting our Bill Walton tie-dye Tommy Bahama shirts in honor of the late, great Bill Walton, who left us this past year. Walton at the Maui Invitational was always a fixture. Loved the island of Maui, and it's just so tragic that he was not able to be here, to be back in Maui. Last year, he was with us when it was relocated to Honolulu. We were back in Maui after the tragic fires that occurred in August of 2023. So just so great to be back here on the island of Maui, here at the Lahaina Civic Center. It's going to be an unbelievably epic tournament. Why? Because as you see on your screen, we have number 2 UConn, number 4 Auburn, number 5 Iowa State, who will play later tonight, and number 12 North Carolina. So that's 4 of the top 12 are in this tournament in the building I'm sitting in right now throughout the course of Monday. As you see in your screen there, Kansas did not change as the number 1 team in the country. UConn 2, as I said, Gonzaga 3, Auburn, Iowa State. Massive matchup later this evening here in Maui between an Auburn team that's already knocked off Houston, which, as you see in your screen, is number 6. And they are taking on an Iowa State team, which is going to be one of the favorites in the Big 12, which has not played anyone of note yet. So this will be a huge test for both schools. Auburn, by the way, has a ridiculous schedule because not only are they getting Iowa State and then potentially North Carolina and then who knows, maybe UConn in this event. They are at Duke next week. They still have Ohio State. They've just got this ridiculous non-conference slate upcoming. They're playing Ohio State and Atlanta on a neutral, and if I'm not mistaken, they also have Purdue coming to play them in Birmingham. So crazy schedule for Bruce Pearl and Auburn that is upcoming. Number 7, Tennessee. The Volunteers won a tournament in the Bahamas by crushing Virginia and Baylor. That's number 17 there on your screen. So the Vols playing the role of definitely a team that's going to compete for the SEC title. Kentucky holding strong at 8, Auburn at 9, Marquette at 10. Now Marquette had a fantastic week. Marquette beat Purdue at home, and this is right after Purdue beat Alabama. And then Marquette went down to the Bahamas for a single game and beat a Georgia team which had just knocked off St. John's. And we're going to get to my team and player of the weeks here momentarily, but Marquette at 6-0, as you see on your screen, even though they lost a couple of guys to the league, there's a feeling right now. We'll see how UConn plays this week, but Marquette may be the best team in the Big East. Certainly they're playing the best right now. I may have a different answer next Monday, depending on what UConn does over the next 3 days. Duke at 11. Duke went to number 24 on your screen, Arizona, and knocked off the Wildcats on the road. Cooper Flagg had a phenomenal game in that game. So great bounce-back game for Duke after losing that late game to Kentucky the week before. So Duke goes on the road. They take down Arizona and Tucson. They stay on the road, and Tuesday night they are playing Kansas, 11 versus 1, in Las Vegas. So that's going to be a monster showdown. There's Purdue at 13. The Boilermakers ended up losing at Marquette. No shame in that because Marquette's really good. So Purdue holding strong as potentially one of the best teams in the Big Ten. There's Indiana at 14 and Wisconsin at 15. Indiana at 14. Massive week for the Hoosiers. They may be the most talented team in the Big Ten, and we're going to see what they've got here early in the season because they're in the battle for Atlantis. Arizona's down there, but most importantly, Gonzaga is down there. So if Indiana can, beat Gonzaga in a final and end up getting that on their resume, they're going to shoot up into the top 10 and be the clear favorite probably in the Big Ten. We shall see. Wisconsin, what a job the Badgers have been doing with Greg Gard. They took down UCF and Pitt, a Pitt team, by the way, that I think is going to end up being the third best team in the ACC. John Tonja, the transfer from Missouri and Colorado State, he had 41 against Arizona the previous week, 33 on Sunday to beat Pitt. He's averaging 23 a game. He arguably is one of the top transfer pickups so far in the portal. So they win this tournament. They're undefeated, and the Badgers have catapulted up into the psyche of the Big Ten to where they potentially could be one of the top three teams without question in the Big Ten. Cincinnati, we don't know yet where they are. They did beat Georgia Tech handily, but I think they are somewhere in that top half of the Big 12. There's Baylor holding on despite losing by double digits to Tennessee. Florida, consistently good so far. Arkansas, again, I think that's way too high for the Razorbacks. They haven't proved anything. A&M, they did beat Ohio State, so fine, keep them at 20. We're going to get to mine in a second here. Creighton at 21. I'm a little surprised that Creighton held its position that high based on losing at home to Nebraska. And Nebraska really controlled that game, so it wasn't like a shock. I mean, Nebraska did a great job defensively on Ryan Kalkbrenner in that game. There's Xavier, who's sneaky good and clearly, I think, one of the top three teams in the Big East with Marquette and UConn, top four teams, and Creighton. So they're going to hold that position, I think, without question throughout the course of the season. Ole Miss, we're still waiting to see how good they are. They are also, in a tournament this week that we'll learn a little bit more about them. Arizona, they need some good wins in the battle for Atlantis, no question about it. And there's Mississippi State. I'm glad to see Mississippi State in there because Mississippi State had a really good week in comparison. Okay, Mississippi State beat Utah and SMU on the road. I had them at 26. So just some comparisons here. I had Kansas 1, Gonzaga 2, UConn 3, Auburn 4, Kentucky 5, Duke 6, Iowa State 7, Alabama 8, Marquette 9, 10 North Carolina. Tennessee 11, probably should have put them up a little bit higher. Fair enough. As you see, they're 6-0. The win over Baylor is significant. So maybe I should have put them up in hindsight. Indiana, I like them at 12 right now. I dropped Houston back at 13. I'm waiting to see more from Houston after losing to Auburn, as good as Auburn is. Purdue 14, Wisconsin 15. Oregon, I feel like I'm the only one high on the Ducks. Ducks are nowhere, anywhere. I have them at 16. Florida at 17. Cincinnati 18. Baylor 19, so I dropped them a few spots. Illinois at 20. Illinois nowhere. Illinois lost to Alabama and Birmingham, but played really well, had chances. They're a pretty good team. Don't sleep on them. A&M at 21. Ohio State at 22. Xavier 23, so in the same ballpark. Drake at 24. Drake nowhere on the screen. Drake won the Charleston Classic, beat Miami, FAU, and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had been undefeated. There's Ben McCollum. He was at Northwest Missouri State 4 Division II NCAA championships. He was looking for the right opportunity. Darren DeVries goes from Drake to West Virginia, and McCollum sees this as the right opportunity for him, dives in there, and he's 6-0. Right now, Drake and Bradley probably the two teams to beat in the Valley. They're scoring well. If they get in, look what they've already done. I don't know if they've beaten a tournament team yet because Miami's struggling. FAU's all over the map. Vanderbilt, we'll see. But they're a team that I don't think teams are going to want to face if they get in that first game of the NCAA tournament. Arkansas 25. I have Mississippi State 26. Ole Miss 27. Creighton at 28. I dropped them. Texas 29. Michigan State 30. Big week for Michigan State here. Colorado Monday. Potentially UConn Tuesday, and then we'll see what happens Wednesday. 31 Penn State. Penn State's 5-0. Mike Rhodes, second year, doing a great job with the Nittany Lions. Texas Tech 32. Did drop them after they lost to St. Joe's, then they came and beat Syracuse. Pitt, I got them at 33, and I think they're going to be a top 25 team. And I think Pitt will end up being the third best team in the ACC. They beat LSU, lost to Wisconsin, but I think they're going to be right there. I got BYU at 34. St. Mary's at 35, Georgia 36, which knocked off St. John's, and then Vanderbilt at 37. So dropping out of my poll, Rutgers, horrible loss to Kennesaw State, horrible loss. Arizona, UCF, and St. John's and VCU. So yeah, I dropped Arizona out completely because they've had two opportunities right now to win games at Wisconsin, home Duke, and lost them both. You got to win at least some of these to be on the screen, in my opinion. So let's go to our team of the week. I want to just go back to Tennessee because I certainly could have moved them higher up, and I think that's a fair criticism if I did not. But Tennessee ended up beating Virginia by 22 and beat Baylor by 15. Okay, so that's our March Madness team of the week down in the Bahamas. They've got games remaining in the non-conference against Syracuse, Miami. I think they should easily win both those games. And then at Illinois. That's going to be the real test for Tennessee before they get into the rugged SEC. Right now, 6-0, 78.8 points a game. They're shooting the ball extremely well. They've never used to have some scoring droughts in the past. Defensively, they're doing great, 13th in the country, and they're making threes. Now back to our National Player of the Week, our March Madness Player of the Week. Cam Jones from Marquette. You know, in the preseason, I had Cam Jones over Ryan Kalkbrenner as my Big East Player of the year, and he ends up with a triple-double against Purdue. He had 17 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. Followed that up with 10 points and 7 assists in that neutral site game against Georgia. You know, Marquette right now is playing at a high level. The big question was, without Tyler Kolek, how would Cam Jones handle more of the responsibility? He's handled it without question. David Joplin had a great game against Georgia. They've got elite guards. Ben Gold's a good sort of a stretch shooter for them. They've got all the pieces right now to make another deep run like they did a year ago. We saw on your screen some of the games to watch. I'm at the Maui Invitational again, sporting my Bill Walton tie-dye. As you see on your screen, the Maui Invitational is the top of our list for the top game event this week. Just on Monday, UConn-Memphis. I think it's going to be a great game right here at 9:30 in the morning, local time. Then the second game, Michigan State-Colorado. Third game, Auburn-Iowa State, maybe one of the best first-round matchups of any of these multiple-team events. And then the nightcap, North Carolina-Dayton. So setting up to have great games, semis on Tuesday, and then the final on Wednesday. But, you know, you come out of this 2-1, that's still pretty good. Kansas, Duke. I love the fact that already Kansas has played home Carolina, and then we'll play Duke in Vegas. Duke has already played Kentucky in Atlanta and at Arizona, and now Kansas in Las Vegas. They didn't control the Auburn game they have next week because that's part of the SEC-ACC Challenge, but that's going to be another phenomenal matchup for them. Battle for Atlantis, I told you we've got games, two teams, I think, 3 teams actually. Gonzaga could end up being number 1 depending on what Kansas does. Indiana, what do they got? How good are they? And Arizona, they need some positive results. The Players Era event in Las Vegas. We've got an Alabama-Houston game. That's a blockbuster. It's going to get sort of under the radar. But this is also an important event for Rutgers after that loss to Kennesaw State, a brutal road loss on Sunday. Important event for San Diego State. They need some quality wins. For Creighton, after that home loss to Nebraska. Texas A&M could really help itself after losing to UCF but beating Ohio State. Notre Dame lost to Elon. Horrible loss. Okay? What do they have in that? And then, of course, you've got the whole situation. Trying to think of the other team. Oh, I think I rattled them off. Anyway, I think I got all those out. All right, Illinois against Arkansas. That's in Kansas City on Thanksgiving. Another high-level neutral site game that pairs 2 teams that I think are still searching for that elite win Arkansas lost to Baylor in Dallas, and Illinois lost to Alabama in Birmingham. Pitt at Ohio State. Pitt, another Big Ten game for them. I think, the fact that they had a lead against Wisconsin, they couldn't close it. Ohio State already beat Texas. This would be a real good win for them as well. Purdue against NC State. That game's in San Diego. NC State, under the radar, played the Final Four last year, undefeated, but they have not had a marquee game yet. This would be number one for Purdue, neutral site game. They already lost that game at Marquette, but this would be a big one after winning against Alabama at home. BYU against Ole Miss, same event in San Diego. Again, we're waiting to see how good these two teams are with BYU. Igor Dem is going to be one of the best freshmen in the country, top 10 pick in the June draft. He'll be on display. Ole Miss has got Matt Morrell. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm big on this next one here. New Mexico taking on Arizona State. And actually, both these are in Palm Springs. And USC and St. Mary's. Okay, New Mexico loses on the road to St. John's at the Garden. They did beat UCLA in Vegas. I think the Lobos could end up being the best team in the Mountain West Conference. Arizona State played extremely well against Gonzaga. They're flying a little under the radar. They could be a top half Big 12 team. USC, again, disappointing. They've already lost one at home, but the pieces are trying to fit together. This would be a huge win for them if they could get it against St. Mary's on a neutral court. St. Mary's has a quality win over in South Dakota against Nebraska, right before Nebraska ended up beating Creighton on the road. All right, so let's see some of your questions. Why did Tennessee jump Kentucky? Well, in the AP poll, they jumped them because they beat Baylor, is my opinion. They didn't jump them in my poll. So Marquette getting robbed, at 10? I have them at 9. Certainly could be higher. UConn should be what's that say? Number one. Not necessarily. Kansas still deserves that honor. What about Georgia? Well, Georgia, in my poll, I had them at 36. Who's winning battle for Atlantis? I'm going to say Gonzaga. Should Illinois still be ranked? Well, I ranked them. Why is Tennessee not in the top 10? That's a fair criticism of me, and I will take it. And I guess I could have bounced out Carolina, but that's probably where I put them. I might have flipped 10 and 11. Xavier, I have Xavier at 23. What's keeping DePaul out is the question. Well, Chris Holman's doing a great job. They're undefeated, but haven't beat anyone yet. Can Rutgers be ranked again? If they can clean up in the Players Era event, then they will be ranked. I'm not touching your point spread comments. That's not for me to do. You can go to another site for that. Ohio State snubbed. Yeah, I've got them at 22, so maybe snubbed there in the AP poll. Is Auburn the best team in the nation? We'll wait and see. Are they the best team in the SEC? I'll tell you, the top of the SEC is unbelievable with Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and don't sleep on Florida. I'm going to lean – this is a tough one. Auburn is more talented than Iowa State, but Iowa State's more disciplined. So that's the tough one to see. I like Auburn in this environment to win. And actually, I'm going to be interested to see. I've seen more Auburn fans here than Iowa State. So I don't know. It's going to be close. What's up with Oregon? Again, I have Oregon ranked 16. I think people see them. Thoughts on Michigan State? It's all about making threes for them. If they can make threes, they can beat Colorado and certainly give a game potentially to UConn. But I wouldn't sleep on Memphis either. Why did UNC drop? Because people didn't stay up late enough to watch them beat Hawaii. That's probably the main answer. Drake is definitely a school that people need to pay attention to. Same with Bradley out of the Missouri Valley, not in the top 25. That's a question that just came in. The Atlantic 10, I should give them a shout out. I don't have an Atlantic 10 team ranked, but I just think people should realize at this point that they've got a number of teams still undefeated. Dayton, St. Bonaventure, Loyola Chicago, Rhode Island, and Davidson. So let's keep an eye on the Atlantic 10. In the Mountain West, Boise State did beat Clemson. New Mexico beat UCLA. Utah State beat Iowa. Nevada has had some good wins. And San Diego State, you can never dismiss them. So, don't get rid of them yet. Is Arizona missing the tournament? No, that's not going to happen. Come on. But they got to have some quality wins here coming up. That's for sure. That has to start happening. What does Arkansas have to do to get higher? Well, beat Illinois. I mean, I guess that's pretty simple. Beat Illinois. Why is Bama ahead of Marquette? Again, why is Bama ahead of Marquette and Purdue? I think that's based on potential in people's voting. But, will they be there at the end? Possibly. They have more talent, I think, overall. The Purdue game was a road game at Mackey, which is not easy for any team to go in and win. Purdue does not lose at home. So, so I would say that. Is NC State getting ranked anytime soon? Again, beat Purdue, beat BYU or Ole Miss, then I think they should be. All right, I'm going to end it here. Maui predictions. I think we should get it feels like a UConn-Carolina final, but I'm going to flip it after watching North Carolina and their bigs, and I will not be shocked if we have a UConn. I'm not shocked. I should rephrase this. I would now say I would predict a UConn-Auburn final. But again, I'm hesitant to do that today because I could definitely see Iowa State winning. I won't be. I could see Memphis winning today and shaking this whole thing up. So, the beauty of this event is we could get some of these matchups just in the consolation bracket. Like if you have an upset where Auburn and UConn lose today, they still could face each other. So all these scenarios still could play out. The bottom line is it's November, it's Thanksgiving week, and these teams are going to get quality games here in November that they're getting on neutral court in a great environment. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Check out all our stuff here on the Bleacher Report app, NCAA.com, March Madness MBB, on all our social handles. Wearing our tie-dyes here in honor of the late, great Bill Walton here at the Maui Invitational. Enjoy the games. This is, I think, one of the best weeks of the year outside of the NCAA tournament. So enjoy it. It's going to be great. And it starts in just about an hour right upstairs from where I am right now with Memphis taking on the number 2 team in the country and the 2-time reigning champs, the UConn Huskies. Thanks for watching, everyone.